Today, what I'm going to talk to you about is how the body works, and I get requested this quite a lot, to be fair. And it's about having clear and simple understandings of the tasks required and what the body's actual role is. That's going to help you to perform it better. So it's not going to become a hindrance in your golf swing anymore and get in the way. It's actually going to help and work the club around for you. So come on, let's go do this. The role of the body is, as I said in the intro, is that its whole purpose and role is to stabilize the golf club as it's swinging through on a circular motion. So if you can imagine the golf club is traveling us around us in a circle, okay, my job of my body is to stabilize that and keep it centered, all right? And that's what I'm really after. What I don't want is excessive movements, okay? And before anybody starts saying the golf swing isn't a circle, it's a slight oblong, let's say, but in this principle, let's try and make it out that it is a circle. And there's these hidden forces or invisible forces that are around us in everything that we do, and more so in the golf swing. So momentum is one of those forces, and that's, you know, the weight of the club or the mass moving around our body. We have to learn to offset that momentum in order to stabilize the club coming around us and keep it in a circular motion, if that makes sense, right? And that's what we're going to try and talk to you about today and give you the feelings of how to offset that momentum. And it's a real, if you can master this, the golf swing can become fairly simple. So one of the things that we see a lot of golfers do is they don't offset that momentum very well. A classic case would be that they move, as the club head's coming down to hit the ball, they'll move up with the club head. They'll move with the momentum. This throws the swing out, all right, and throws the path off. You're then having to reroute the club in order just to get it back to the ball. If I can learn to offset that momentum, I can keep the club head swinging around me on plane or on a stable path. And that's really what we're trying to achieve here. We're trying to push away from momentum in order to gain that. Now, you'll see other videos and other takes on this, which is fine, okay? There's no wrong or right answers to this. This is just how I like to work it, and this is how my coach works it, which is Mike Malaska from Malaska Golf. Go check them out, by the way. And having a clear understanding of what the task is that the body needs to do actually will make it a lot easier, and also, dare I say, a lot less stressful on your body as well. For years I did the rotating thing and trying to coil the upper body against the lower body and creating this stretch and coil. My back is absolutely destroyed now, and I had to find a way to work this, and discovering Mike back in 2017 has really made it so that I can play a golf again and with less stress on my body. Okay, and that's where Mike's specialty comes in. He's the physio type player that knows how the body functions, and learning all that from him myself has just been a revelation. All right, so learning to control the club around that circle is really what we're looking at, and how the body moves and works is not quite how you've probably been told. All right, it's all about rotation. Yes, the shoulders do turn and they do rotate, but the hips have a different role, and that will be a separate video that I'll do on how the pelvis works, because if you have an understanding of how the pelvis works as well, but that's quite an in-depth video, you're going to have a better understanding of how the body works as well. All right, so doing this, I'm going to give you a couple of drills today that's going to help you to work on the body and hopefully make you a far better golfer doing it. And that's what we're going to focus on today. So really, it's about stabilizing and centralizing that swing arc. And if you can do that, I can promise you the golf swing becomes a heck of a lot easier than it ever did before, and less stressful on the body. So I'm trying to swing away from the momentum of the club, and I'll show you ways that you already know how to do this, and you'd be surprised that you actually already know this. And if I can simplify it down for you, I probably will do my best. But once we get into it and you'll understand it, hopefully you'll understand what the task is. So my task here is that I'm trying to push away from the momentum of the club as it swings through. So the weight of the club head as I'm coming to here, I'm trying to push away, I'm pushing away, I'm pushing away, I'm pushing away, pushing away. The club wants to go that way, and I'm trying to pull it back into center, all right? And that's what I'm trying to do. So it's really important. Once you can get that right, can really make good contact on the ball, and it's effortless power as well. So that's what we're going to be working on. That's what we're going to try and do, is get you controlling the momentum of the club via your body movement or pivot. I don't like using that word, but how your body works is really going to help you to stabilize the center of that swing. All right, so I'm going to show you a couple of things next that might help you to understand it better. One thing that you probably did as a kid when you used to play, which was a game of tug of war. You know, you've all used to grab a piece of string and pull on it, and one person pull on the other end. And that sort of was going to be the best way to explain to you on how momentum and how your body's pushing away through the swing. It's going to teach you really the total movement that you need to do. So you can grab a friend, or you know, one of your kids or your partner, grab the club head itself. And I'm going to pretend here because I have no friends, obviously. But what I want you to do is to get a feeling as though somebody's grabbing the club head and they're pulling you away. They're pulling it this way. And if they pull too much, you're going to go that way. So you've got to fight that. Okay, you're going to fight that feeling. So I can really feel as though I'm pushing back. I can feel as though I'm putting my heels into the ground. I can really feel that I'm sort of trying to push back. And my natural reaction when I push back or pull the club back this way would be to push away with my pelvis. Really, I'm push back this way. I'm putting force in here because this is going to make my legs stabilize, and this is going to push the club away. Now, if somebody was to then pull you around, so if they've got hold of the club head here, and I want them to start walking around here, okay, I'm going to be pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling, pulling and pulling and pulling. I can still feel my hips pulling back this way to keep the club here, and I get to about here somewhere. I'm still pulling in here. I'm putting all my pressure into my right heel, and I'm pushing away this way. Okay, and that's the feeling I'm going to get. And obviously the club will then go up, club comes back here, the momentum's starting to swing out this way, and again, I'm pulling, pulling, pulling. They can be pulling as hard as they like, and I'm pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling. So at this point here, this is an impact, I'm pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling. All right, and that's the feeling you're going to get. Now, if you notice when I do this, I pull like this, my hips never ever pull off from center or from where they are. If anything, I'm moving away. All right, and that's going to be a way of feeling how the pressure works in the feet and the correct feeling of the movement during the swing. So I can really feel as though I'm pulling, 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 and pushing away from that momentum, as if I'm trying to pull it back. And if I can master that, I can really get a feeling of never moving up into the ball. So if you're going to lose this race, which a lot of golfers do, you know, they throw the club out and the momentum goes off balance and they don't stabilize the body, and what they end up doing is they come in with it. You're never going to win that battle. So you've got to push away. And remember, it's a movement that you already know how to do. So always get that feeling of pushing away. All right, and that's what I try to work on quite a lot in my golf game, because I was always somebody that came up into the ball. I think it was due to when I hurt my back, became very stiff and tight, and a way of protecting it, I started moving up. And there's probably a lot of golfers like that, but there's a lot of golfers out there who get the momentum of the club offline, and that helps to throw them out as well, and they're always moving up into the ball. So you always want to get a feeling of moving away from the ball, and that's what I'm really sort of after here. So that feeling of pulling away is really, really key. So I'm just going to go up and pull through, and it really just accelerates the club head round. All right, and that's the feeling I want. You're never going to move up into the ball, which we see a lot of golfers do, and that, or they call it early extension and so on. So that's really the feeling you want. Get somebody to hold the club head and pull you back, and you're going to feel how the body works when you do this. Okay, that's a great feeling to have. If you can master this, I promise you, it's going to feel beautiful when you're swinging the golf club. You're going to try and recreate that pulling away. You're never going to move up. You can have so much so much room to swing the club head into the ball that you're never pulling up into it. Okay, you're going to be pushing away, and that's really key. And that's a really important one to have. Also, folks, just remember a note here that I actually haven't said the word rotation yet. Some people like that word, but the hips don't really rotate, they work in a straight line. So we'll talk more about that when I talk about the pelvis. Just to highlight this further, all right, the old classic ball on the end of a piece of string, all right, I've gone big up time here, okay, but you can try this at home. And in order to create this ball to swing around me in a fixed orbit, let's say, or circular motion, my hands and wrist have to work in a specific way. But what they're actually doing is they're offsetting the momentum of the ball, all right? So I'm having to push and pull backwards as well as, I suppose, let's say turn for the sake of this video, but I'm having to push and pull them backwards, all right? And that's what's offsetting the momentum. So as the ball's coming round me, my wrist is having to go back and forth, okay, in this manner as well, to offset the momentum, right? And if you do this with a ball, I don't know, tie a piece of string around a ball or something like that, you'll feel how that momentum works. Now I can do it faster, I can do it slow. If I do it really slow, I can really feel how momentum works. So as the ball's coming around here, my wrist is pulling back because that's offsetting the momentum. And that's really, really important that you understand that, because if I offset momentum, then I can create power and speed, but more importantly, I can keep the ball moving on a fixed orbit. And that's what we're really trying to create here, all right? If I didn't control that, and I say let go of that and stop turning my wrist, the momentum is going to pull and go straight line. So momentum is a straight line force. It's not a circular force. And if I don't control and offset that momentum, it's going to just send it off orbit. So if I was just to let go, it would always go in a straight line, depending on which way the force is swinging around at that point. So it's really important that you understand that, and that's a great way of showcasing that. Okay, I can swing this around my body and I'm creating that momentum, I'm creating that movement around me. All right, you can see how my wrist is working. My hand and arm isn't just staying fixed and spinning, okay? It's actually working back and forth. Ooh, okay, it's actually working back and forth, and you can see this. All right, my arm is working back and forth, and this is what's offsetting the momentum. So as the ball, let's say, approaches in front of me, my arm starts to pull backwards because that's offsetting the momentum. And if you can get a clear understanding of that, then your golf game is going to improve because you're going to have a stabilizing movement. All right, and that's a key thing. Now, the best thing to watch in the world is a hammer thrower. Somebody who throws a hammer. I could use that, I suppose. Somebody who uses a hammer, you know, they'll start in the Olympics, they'll start by offsetting momentum, and they actually highlight how much they do that. So I start doing this, okay, and I'm offsetting that momentum. I'm pulling it back and away, so my body's pulling away, and that's a good way of doing it. Let's get something a little bit heavier. So if I'm offsetting this momentum, this is quite heavy, this. So to do this, I'm actually, as the weight's starting to come around here and the momentum wants to go that way, I'm actually offsetting that by pulling it back. I'm using my body to push away from that momentum. So if I get this going over my head, I'm pushing away. And that's a really great way to feel it. So go over my head and push away. And I'm feeling that. And then you can do that. Do it with a driver, with a head cover on, or if you've got an orange whip or something heavy, you'll get a feeling of how the body pushes away as it swings down and through, because it's the only way to really control the mass as it swings around you. If you didn't do that, if I gave somebody this thing to swing around their head like I'm just doing here, they would never in a million years go, as it's coming around to here, go with it, okay? They would naturally fight it and push away. And that's what they're doing with the hips. So they're pushing away with the body. And that's a real key thing to try and feel and understand. If you can do that and you time it up correctly, if I get my ball back again, okay, I can do that. And if I do it faster, okay, and move that arm faster, say if I push so if I was to swing down to the ball and I was to use my left leg and push that back faster, just at the right time, I actually create easy speed. Right? So make it bigger, and if I pull that back and start to pull that and move that faster, you can see how the ball on the string goes faster as well. Okay, but it's less effort. I'm utilizing momentum in order to do this, and that's really, really key that you learn to do this. If you can do this and get that feeling, you'll actually create effortless power when you swing the golf club. And that's what I'm trying to create when I hit the golf ball. I'm trying to create that feeling as the club head's coming around me. Remember, the club head weighs only a few kilos to start with, but it's gathering, it's starting to end up weighing a few pounds as it's swinging down. So the weight head's gathering, or the momentum's gathering, and you've got to try and offset that by pushing away. I can promise you, if you can do that, you're going to hit some great shots and effortless speed and power. The arms have to be relaxed when they do this, so you can't steer it to the ball. So I'm actually just allowing the weight of the club to just go on the downswing. And that's really what I'm trying to feel. So back and through, I'm just pushing the momentum away. The club head just naturally accelerates through. I'm hardly putting any effort into that, and it feels like it puts less stress on my body, as I said earlier. So offset momentum, that's really what we're trying to do. And that's what the whole role of the body is, all right? That's what the body is trying to create. It's trying to stabilize the legs. It's trying to stabilize the center of the arc. And that's the whole body, that's the whole function of the body. I haven't really once talked about, oh yeah, I've got to rotate back, I've got to turn the shoulders 90 degrees and the hips 45 and so on and so forth. No, it does it naturally. If I was doing it and the club head will move, as my arms move, my shoulders move, and so on and so forth. I'm doing it all to offset the swing. And that's really the key thing here. The feeling that I will get when I'm swinging the golf club is of the right leg straightening to push the right hip back, and then my left leg straightening to push the left hip back. That's the feeling I get. For me, how I've been shown and how I totally believe it works now is that my hips work backwards, right? They never ever work in a rotational fashion. They look like they rotate, and that's where people get a bit confused. But my right hip, if I just say, right, I'm going to push my right hip back via my right leg, like this, my right hip's gone backwards. I've actually pushed it back. I haven't thought about turning it one little bit, right? Even yet, but the thing is that because my left hip stayed where it was, it looks like I've turned. But then I'm going to push my left hip back, and it looks like my right hip's turned. But I haven't once thought that my hips are rotating. When I'm standing to hit the golf ball, all I'm focusing on is pushing back. I'm pushing the right hip back and left hip back. And that's what gives me that strike. And I'll be honest with you, once you can master that, I promise you, you'll be amazed, and you start thinking that way, at how easy the golf swing is and how easy it is to create a lot of power with very minimum effort. So I'm pushing back and pushing back, right? That feeling of pushing back is really, really key. Offsetting momentum, and that's the whole story of today's video. Very complex. It's not a very easy subject to talk about on a video, but get a feeling of it. Use those things there to give you an understanding of what it is you're trying to achieve. But I'm going to give you a couple of drills now that's going to help you to practice what we're talking about here and give you the feelings that you need. There is more things that you can do, but I'm just going to give you two that I like to do most of the time. Drill number one is, we call it the pulley drill. It's going to be self-explanatory in a second. Now, I've used my golf bag here. You can have somebody stand on it or try and fix it around something quite strong, okay? It's going to give you enough resistance when you're doing this. And we've seen different versions of this on the internet, I have anyway, and different people talk about it. But this is one that we call the pulley drill. So what I've done is I've hooked it around the base of my golf bag. I've used a weight here just to make it a bit more stabilised. But the premise here is really easy, all right? It's really self-explanatory. So I've got two pulleys here. Okay, I can pull them back and forth. And this is the feeling that you're going to get. So I'm going to take my golf stance. Okay, I'm going to take my posture. And what I'm going to do here is just get a feeling of just pulling the right arm backwards. Okay, so I'm going to pull it this way. And what I'm going to do here is this is going to teach me that feeling of pulling away. And I'm going to feel my right hip, my right leg's going to straighten or it's going to push my right hip back. And that's really the key thing here. So as I'm pulling it back here, I can feel the pressure going into my heel and pushing back. And we need to build that pressure up. And I'll probably move a little bit to the right-hand side as I do this. So I can feel it. And this is a great way of feeling that pressure building up and how the body works. I'm actually pushing the right hip back and pushing into the ground the correct way. What I'm not doing here is I'm not turning my hips as I do this. I've got no pressure or pulling when I do that. I'm trying to feel as though I'm loading up my right side. Right? It's a great way to feel it. You'll feel it naturally when you do this. From here then, as I start to release this pressure in this right hand, I'm going to move up into my left leg. So I'm stabilizing the left leg now to get it ready to take the pull on the left side. So I'm stabilizing this up. My arm's going to start to release. Okay, my left hip now starting to straighten. This is now going to be about impact around here somewhere. And then from here, I'm then going to pull this side. And I can feel my left leg. I can feel my left heel being pushed into the ground. And I can feel my left leg straightening up to push my hip back. So I'm pulling back, up into my left side and pulling back. And this is a great way to feel how the swing should feel. Up into my left side, pulling back. If you did this pretty much every day, you'd get a real feeling of how the swing works. I'm pulling back and pushing back. This will eliminate early extension that we hear people talking about. There's no way, if I gave this to anybody now and said, right, I want you to pull this back, there is no way they'd go like that as they pull forward. Okay, there's no way, or if they pulled forward here, there's no way they'd go like that unless they weren't strong enough. But we just ease up on it a bit. What they would always do is they'd push away, they'd pull away from that movement. So they'll use the ground to push away from that to create that resistance, and then they'll pull away this way. So I'm back here, moving up into my left side, getting ready to use the ground to then push off the ground and pull the body back. And this is a great way to feel it in the golf swing. If you can do that and get a few repetitions of doing that, you then can take a golf club. You can take a golf club and get that feeling of just pulling the body back and through, and you'll get a real good sense of how the ground works and how the swing should work from here. So I'm just going to pull back and pull through. I can really get a sensation of how that works. I promise you, it works really, really well. You get a good feeling of how it does it. You can do this if you do have the ability to put it on a golf bag or tie it around a golf cart, something like that. Honestly, great way of practicing it. Take it to the range, tie it around something solid, have a feeling doing that first, and then move on in and hit a shot. I promise you, you'll hit the ball fantastically. I wish the sound was better, because I'm absolutely striping these balls today, getting that feeling. Maybe I should work on the body action more often. There you go. Anyway, that's drill number 1. Right, drill number 2. This is another great way of feeling that movement of the hips pushing back, and I'm really hoping this thing can hold this strap, because otherwise I'm going to be in serious trouble. It's going to be a blooper gold. But what I've done here is I've just tied the band around my waist, so it's just above my hips here. I've tied it through a loop, and I've got something heavy on it. I could probably try the golf cart again, or something that's a bit more stable, or have somebody stand on it. It's probably going to help, isn't it? Just hope they're a really good friend and don't let go of it and spring up and hit you somewhere it shouldn't. But again, all I'm going to get a feeling for here is that feeling of how the hips feel as though they're always pushing away. I've got resistance here in the band. It's at taut. I can feel it wanting to pull me this way. I'm just going to take my stance, get my knees nice and flexed so I'm stable with the ground. I can feel the ground, all right? And all I'm going to do here is I'm just going to practice just turning or moving the body back. So I'm going to pull the right hip back. I'm going to feel that trying to pull me forward. I'm resisting that, okay? I'm trying to feel myself pushing back. This is like the momentum of the club. It's trying to pull you this way, but you're resisting it. So that's the same here. So my right hip's going to go back. My right leg's going to push my right hip back. I'm going to move up into my left side, and I'm going to push back with the left. And I'm forever feeling as though I'm pulling away. I'm never ever going to allow the hips to come forward. And that's one of the things we see a lot of golfers do. Again, this is a great drill to do. It's just to get that feeling of pulling back and pulling through. This action here, this cable drill here, is just a great way of feeling how the pressure moves in the feet. And all I'm going to feel here is of the right leg pushing the right hip back and the left leg pushing the left hip back. And again, you'll see my hips never ever come forward up into the ball, which is probably one of the #1 killers of a golf swing, to be fair. Pulling back, I'll move up into my left side, so I'm going back, my right leg pushes my left hip back, my right hip back, sorry. I'm going to move up into my left side to brace for this side now to take the weight, and I'm going to push back from there. And again, that's a great way to feel that movement coming back and forth. You can do this with any club as well, but this is the same feeling that you're going to get. So you're going to really take that nice and taut. I'm going to swing back. I can feel like I'm always pushing away, and that's what I really want the feeling to be. Always pushing back and pushing away. Great feeling. I love this feeling. Push up to the left side and pull back here. If you can do that, I promise you, you'll hit the ball several times better than you've ever done before. Once you can do that, take it off. I've got that feeling fresh in my mind of the hips pushing back away from the ball. I can then set up to a golf ball and then make the swing. So I'm going to feel the right hip going back. So right leg pushes right hip, left leg pushes left hip back. I'm going to try to recreate that in the golf swing itself. So I'm going to push back and push through. Okay, I can really feel the ground being used. I can feel the body moving correctly, and it feels like it's supporting the club and swinging it around me on a stable base. I can feel myself pushing away from momentum when I do this. That is a fantastic drill. Do those 2 drills. I promise you, you will improve your golf dramatically. So that's how the body works. That's how I would like to see it work. It's the functionality of everything pushing away from the club head itself, or away from the ball, if you want to think of it that way. And that's how simple I want you to try and keep it. Don't start getting bogged down where you've got to turn your shoulders to 90 degrees, you've got to then do this. Try and clarify it. Keep the task nice and simple. Right hip goes back, left hip goes back, and it's being done by the legs. Legs are pushing back, they're pushing into the ground, which is then pushing those back. And that's how you can create speed and power as well, because if I time up that movement through the ball, same as I did with the ball swinging around on a piece of string, I can zip that right through, and that's what creates that speed and power right at the last minute. And it just comes down to practice and timing then. Do the drills. The drills also help you to get that feeling of how to do that. You can do them indoors. You don't have to be outside or at a golf course. You can do them indoors. You just need maybe a resistance band or something. You can even pretend. You know, I had to pretend early with the tug of war game, but just get the feeling of it. And then you've got to apply it to a golf ball. Start off nice and slow, start off nice and simple. but you promise you will get better at it, and you'll get a better movement. You'll have a better understanding of what the actual body's role or function is during the golf swing, which isn't about turning and trying to hit with the body. And I think that's where a lot of golfers go wrong. Instead of trying to hit with the hands and arms, they actually try and hit with the body. All right. If I was doing other sports, tennis, for example, baseball, other sports like that, my body would move in reaction to the hands and the arms and the bat or the racket or whatever it is I'm using. They don't actually force movements when I'm doing it. Yes, you can probably get technical with some bits of it, and you can narrow it down to certain focus parts, but with that, if I gave you a baseball bat or a tennis racket, all right, it would never be baseball league player or whatever, but you'd have an understanding of how the body moves. You know, you'd even push the hip back as you hit through the shot. You do it naturally. It's the same as when I throw a ball, or if I was going to skim stones across a pond. You know, my body would turn back naturally. Do I think, oh, I've got to turn my shoulders 90 degrees? Do I push my hips back and so on? So no, they move. They do it automatically. My arm makes my body react, and I'll push in. It just naturally reacts. It's a movement that you already know how to do. So do it. Don't fight it. Let it happen, all right? Practice it though. But I think sometimes what you've got to do is have clear understandings of the task in hand as opposed to the actual technicalities of it. And I think that's where we as golfers get wrong. We think too much about it instead of just react to it. If you do those drills, it will become an instinct, and that's what you want after a while. I don't want to be standing there when I'm hitting shots thinking about what I'm trying to do. I'm just going to stand there and just hit it, and that's what I want. I'm going to trust the fact that I've trained it, I've worked on it, and it's become a natural movement that I can now do it without even thinking about it. So once again, thank you for watching. I will have more detailed courses on my Skillist profile. If you download the Skillist app, you can find me at Matt Baker. On there we are able to sell courses or actually run individual videos that are private for followers only, so come and visit me on that link there, and I'll put the link in the description below. You click on that link, follow me, and you're going to get some exclusive content that I don't share on YouTube or anywhere else. So once again, thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing if you are a subscriber. If not, please subscribe. Also, please hit that notification bell and share me with your friends. If you think people are going to benefit from these swing lessons and these golf lessons, share me around. Let's try and grow my channel as much as we possibly can. But as always, I'm going to see you at the next one where we're going to be working on something different.